Cool. So I'm just going to jump right in, and again, please feel free and stop me if you need to ask questions. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are, and then hopefully describe to you why we think this thing we're working on is super exciting. Tell you why we think that it should be super exciting for you as well. And then play around with actually making some things and see if you think that this is something that you too could do, because that's really sort of the opportunity here, is to show you what this is, show you how to do it, and then see if you can think you can do these kinds of things as well. We think you can. So this is, as this title says, desperately seeking diversity. This is what we look like. I'm the guy on the left side of the picture here. And perhaps more importantly than what we look like is sort of where we come from. Prior to this, I spent 4.25 years at Google working on social infrastructure and then kids and family identity and the identity group. Before that, I was the chief technology officer of MySpace Music. You remember MySpace. And prior to that, I built 3 venture capital-backed companies, raised over $100 million in venture capital, some more successful than others as companies. And then, as you can see, the team is rounded out by folks from Magic Leap and Disney and a whole bunch of other places. Along with that, we raised $2 million as a seed investment from 23 angels. And they're also quite an interesting bunch. As you can see, former CEO of Disney, Michael Eisner, my former boss at MySpace, the head of Time Warner Investments, 9 Googlers, including the head of Google News and the head of Google's Kids Initiatives, a bunch of founders of various companies like DivX, as you can see there, About.com, the guy who created WebSocket, which is one of the most important technologies on the internet, so tech luminaries. And you can hear my kids there hanging out in the background as well. Those of you that follow me on Facebook have seen plenty of pictures of them. Anyway, so it's a pretty awesome group of investors, and we're certainly super excited that they believed in the vision early on when we just had a little prototype to come in such a large number. Okay, so why are they so excited about this? So here's a quote from Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, and I'll just read it to you guys. "I regard augmented reality as a big idea like the smartphone. The smartphone is for everyone. We don't have to think, we don't have to think the iPhone is about a certain demographic or country or vertical market. It's for everyone. I think AR is that big. It's huge. I get excited because the things that can be done that could improve a lot of lives." And so we thought that was a very apropos quote. And here's another one from another article that he was quoted in. "I think it is profound. I'm so excited about it. I just want to yell out and scream. The first step in making it a mainstream kind of experience is to put it in the operating system." So he's talking about the iPhone operating system. "We're building it into iOS 11, opening it to developers, and unleashing the creativity of millions of people. Even we can't predict what's going to come out. We agree." And here's a quote from last week's Adweek magazine. So if you guys are familiar with Adweek, it's one of the major publications in the advertising space. It says, "Developers are creating platforms that will allow brands to create their own augmented reality experience without having to onboard a whole team of AR experts. Organizations such as GoMeta are putting accessible AR tools in brands' and marketers' hands right now." So again, this GoMeta that they're talking about is Metaverse, is our company. And so it was great, obviously, to be noticed in Adweek. I think all of this is happening because our world is about to change quite dramatically. Now, we've seen these kinds of changes before. This incredible innovation in technology sort of goes in waves. There's always innovation, but periodically we have these major sort of step functions in innovation. And here are some that we have experienced. You know, if you're 30 years and older, you've seen all of these. We used to have desktops. In fact, I started programming in 1984 when pretty much nobody had a desktop. I was one of 3 people in my school that had a computer. It's because I bugged my parents forever until they got me one. And I spent most of my time in front of that computer programming instead of living a normal social life like teenagers should do. Then, you know, after a while, we said, well, this kind of sucks that we have to be tethered to our desks, and because sometimes we go into meetings and we can't bring our computers with us. And so the invention of the laptop sort of dramatically changed that, because now you could carry your computer in your briefcase or your backpack, or take it from meeting to meeting. And this was super awesome. I remember having one that had this little snap-on mouse and still had floppy disk drives in it, and so you could actually use floppy disks. I dare you to find any of your laptops that has a floppy disk drive. And then we moved on to computers being networked, and obviously with the invention of the adoption of the internet and the World Wide Web. Then there was a huge, and by the way, not to sort of skip the internet itself, obviously, incredible amount of innovation. When it first started, I started using it in 1995, and there were mostly a bunch of trivialities on the internet. You had Yahoo that was trying to organize all the world's websites in a catalog, which today seems like just the silliest idea ever. You had a bunch of personal websites. You had these little Java applets that had like things that today we'd consider like animated GIFs. You had this crazy guy that was trying to sell books on the internet, and people said, well, who wants to buy things on the internet? Forget, what was the name of that company? Oh, Amazon. That was it. Then there was the company that was trying to sell Pez dispensers, and then sort of expanded the things they were selling, and today it's called eBay. And of course, we've sort of seen what's happened with that little sort of one-word thing on that spectrum there. But even that was dramatically disrupted, meaning its capabilities extended by the invention of the smartphone, really. Not just mobile phones, but the smartphone, and the ability for these phones to run applications. And from that, we get, obviously, what we see today, which is everyone sort of looking down at their screens. I was telling Jonathan a story, I think yesterday. So one of the companies I built before this was a company called VO Networks, which was an online video service. And I started pitching it to venture capitalists in January of 2005. This is before YouTube launched. And when I would pitch venture capitalists on sort of like, I'm going to change the world by allowing anyone to broadcast video, they sort of gave me a bunch of objections. Like, well, first of all, there's already so much video on TV. There are like 400 cable channels. I can't watch all of those. Why do I need any more video? Or who wants to watch their neighbor broadcasting video? It's going to be like shaky video. It's on a small screen. You've got to be leaning forward. I've got this amazing, giant flat screen television. I don't want to watch video on this little screen and video broadcast by the guy down the street. And of course, today it's funny. I rarely turn on my large screen TV. I consume most of my video either on my phone or on my computer, and more of the world is doing exactly the same thing. It's kind of funny to look back on those conversations, because even I wouldn't have predicted that so many of us would be sort of watching things on these tiniest of screens. And then from that, we're seeing another inflection point, and this is what Tim Cook is so excited about, is the sort of emergence of augmented reality. And augmented reality is somewhat of an ambiguous term. It refers to sort of many different things. For example, when I was at Google for a little bit, I worked on Google Glass, which you could argue is an augmented reality headset. Microsoft has something called HoloLens, which is also trying to do things like they're called wearables. There are many companies that are working on all kinds of sort of facets of augmented reality. But what Tim Cook is primarily specifically referring to is augmented reality is consumed through our phones. Because we have this device always with us in our pocket, and most of the time actually these days in our hands. And that device has all kinds of capabilities that we're not using just yet. It's got all kinds of sensors, it's got all kinds of computing power, it's got a camera, and now these new phones that are coming out have better cameras that can do depth detection and all kinds of other things. And we've also gotten much better with math, with algorithms, as computer scientists figure out how to basically model the physical world around us, create digital models of it, and be able to do things like detect surfaces and detect, they're called markers, where if your phone identifies it, now we can project something over it. So there's all kinds of innovation that's happening in augmented reality by many different companies. And this creates an opportunity, because at each one of these inflection points, both consumers and specifically, as I want to talk to you guys about, businesses, are struggling with trying to figure out what should they do with these new opportunities. And of course, businesses are always looking for a competitive advantage, something that lets them market better, something that lets them be more efficient, to be able to get ahead of their competition. And so this thing right here is what creates a tremendous amount of demand out there. And at this moment, still very little supply. And so I'm about to show you with some examples. As I said, I started using the internet in 1995. And the first time I saw it, something just clicked for me. And I got so excited that I spent a lot of time doing it. As you can see, I didn't take very good care of myself. But it's because I was spending all of my time sitting in front of a computer. And so during the day, I worked at Fujitsu. I worked at Fujitsu for 5 years. Fujitsu is kind of like the AT&T of Japan. I worked in Los Angeles in their telecommunications group, making $45,000 a year. I was 25 years old at the time. From 25 to 30 is when I worked there. And then on nights and weekends, I was literally walking door to door in Los Angeles and Playa del Rey, Marina del Rey, Santa Monica, mostly on the west side. Knocking on doors, talking to business owners, telling them about this thing, the World Wide Web. And most of the time I got pretty blank stares coming back at me, and so I'd struggle to explain to them other terms that they may have heard, like the information superhighway, that Al Gore talked about, and all these things. And while some of them sort of potentially heard something about it, they really didn't know what it was, certainly didn't see any real value in it. I was almost always the first guy to have approached them with anything like this. And so I found myself talking to just sort of random businesses, gyms, restaurants, spas, retail stores, sort of many other things. These businesses, again, when I first approached them, really sort of had no interest in this. But because I created a compelling value proposition for them, which was that I was going to build this thing for them completely free of charge. I was going to build them this website free of charge. All they need to do is spend a little time with me and sort of give me some feedback. They didn't have to write copy. I went in and took all the photos of their businesses, because at that time, nobody really had a digital camera. I had this like giant clunky digital camera that I was using. And so I'd build their websites for free. And then if they liked it, they could keep it and they could pay me $30 a month for this. My first customer was LA Fitness, the Marina del Rey branch of it. I forget who was my second customer, but then they sort of started popping up. I did about 60 of these, which turned out to be not such a bad business. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of work to do 60 websites. This took about a year, so I was quite busy. But that started going. Most of them kept them, and so this was a nice $1,800 a month sort of coming in as passive income. So I was pretty excited about this. Again, making $45K a year. Actually, I think I'd gotten a raise. I think I was making $60K by then. but still, this was a large amount of money, and so that was awesome. And I did this, and then sort of suddenly I found what you could call early adopters in this industry, and those were adult film actors. And so I was living in Los Angeles, which is obviously sort of the mecca of adult films, and these actors were sort of all over the place, and these types of sites started to be more noticeable. You know, adult typically tends to be early adopters in general of technology. So anyway, long story short, I went from building sites for free and charging $30 per month to charging $8,000 to $10,000 a month to build the sites. And that was awesome. And I was pretty much building 2 sites a month. And so that was amazing. And after a few years at Fujitsu, I decided that why am I still working at Fujitsu? I should go out on my own and develop websites. And indeed I did. Now, this same opportunity that I took advantage of in those early days of the web, when technology was available, and it was certainly easy to do, meaning actually building websites today is much harder than it was building websites in 1995. Because in 1995, you basically just had HTML. This is even before CSS. If you wanted to build dynamic websites, there was a technology called PHP, which still exists today, by the way. It's one of the major ones. But today, we've sort of complexified these things with incredible technologies. And in the hands of professional developers, we can do much more with the web today, but it's also much more complex to do it now. But back then, it was quite easy. And so certainly, these businesses could have done all of these things themselves. And certainly, these adult actors could have built their own websites without paying me $10,000 to build it for them. In fact, at that time, I sort of always used to wonder, like, wow, I can't believe like $10,000 to them is like such little amount of money, because for me, like, it takes me a weekend to build this website, and that's incredible. I don't make $10,000 in a weekend. I guess I did make $10,000 in a weekend, but you see how I was thinking about this. And so we're sort of in a similar place today. I'm about to show you that using Metaverse, our platform, any of these businesses that are out there right now could go in and start building these things. But as we've already found out, not surprisingly, they like help. And this is the opportunity now, is to join this inflection point to AR and help these businesses to do it. And this is where you come in. Let's first take a step back and sort of get our perspective in order here. So I've been talking about this Metaverse thing, but we sort of potentially don't know what it is I'm talking about at all. And so let's get a high-level overview of it. So Metaverse is a platform, right? It's a technology that facilitates rapid creation of what we call interactive experiences. Now, many of these experiences are in augmented reality. You can use Metaverse to create things that are not augmented reality as well. But certainly a lot of our early adopters, and obviously all of the excitement around augmented reality, per those quotes from Tim Cook, for example. And by the way, of course, Tim is not the only one talking about this. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, I already mentioned, like, all the major companies are excited about augmented reality and what it means and the opportunities for them to sell more software and more services, and sort of obviously opportunities for all of us to take advantage of all of it. So right now we're quite focused on augmented reality as sort of the focus of these interactive experiences. So it's a new platform, facilitates rapid creation of these interactive experiences. These experiences are created using what we call the Metaverse Studio. It's just a web app, meaning if you go to studio.gometa.io, you can create an account and log in and start creating these interactive experiences. Now, we've made the creation of these experiences extremely easy, intentionally. Like, that's the whole point of our platform, is to make it super easy for non-technical people to be able to create interactive experiences, including augmented reality. And so this is what we focus on, is building a platform that facilitates easy creation. And so it's easy because of these two things. One is called blocks, and another one's called scenes. And these are basically, put these two things together on a storyboard, and these are basically the building units of an experience. And blocks are used to create logic and actions, and scenes are used to create visual elements that can be seen by users. And then you just put it all on this environment right here we call the storyboard. You configure it on the right-hand side, and then you basically publish these experiences. Now, the experiences themselves are consumed, they run on regular mobile phones, on iOS and Android, on iPhone and any Android phone. Those phones only need to have one application installed, and that's the Metaverse Client. You can think of it as sort of being like the browser for these interactive experiences, right? To browse the web, you need a browser like Chrome or Safari or Internet Explorer, any of these kinds of things. And to use augmented reality, metaverse experiences, you need to install just one application on either your iPhone or any of your Android phones, and that application is called Metaverse. And from then on, all the new experiences simply are available to you without installing anything. And even though the experiences themselves feel like they are apps, and you should think of them as being apps, meaning they are sort of containers of utility or entertainment or anything else. They're just these bite-sized things that give you some kind of a value. You don't need to install each one of them. And they are easily spreadable. Because they sort of function, they feel like apps, but they function like the web. They all have a permalink. They have a link on the web. And you can take that link and you can send it to somebody. You can send it to your customer or your prospect via email or instant messenger. You can link to these things from a website. You can share them on social media. You can also save them to your regular desktop on your launch screen on your phone and access them just like a regular app. They can be sent to you as push notifications. And then some of these experiences, if they are geocontextual, we'll talk about this in a second, meaning if they are related to a specific physical place. For example, we'll do a demo for you of creating a loyalty program for Starbucks. And so there we would place these experiences inside of Starbucks locations, and then they are also consumable and viewable on a map. And so these experiences, these apps, can have this very powerful geocontextual element to it, which make them super, super valuable to anyone that's dealing with any kind of retail or sort of physical world integrations. So we've got over 11,000 now beta testers, all kinds of people, as you can see them on the right-hand sides here. Parents, teachers, brands, celebrities, agencies, brick and mortar businesses, designers, developers, writers, filmmakers, kids, hobbyists, all kinds of folks. And they've created all kinds of different things. Brand activations, meaning I've got a new product I'd like to launch or promote. I'd like to get attention for it. And so I'd like to create something either novel or compelling or educational to present to my prospects so that they really understand the value that my product is trying to present to them. Event augmentations. You may have seen, if you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, I post about some of the things we've done. For example, with Sony Music, in June, we augmented the Country Music Festival, and it had 73 augmented reality experiences that spawned over a 4-day period of time and made people walk around the event in a different way. They were available during certain set times when people were on stage playing. And then that would have a virtual experience. Let's say it's Toby Keith that's on stage. There's an experience, a digital experience of Toby Keith right there by the stage as well. that that fans could interact with. And when Toby got off stage and somebody else got on, that experience would basically decay and a new experience would spawn. Then we took people on a quest outside of the festival into sort of Nashville, Old Town Nashville, and took them on a tour of history of country music. So all kinds of things like that. They're super powerful. Then we did something with Atlantic Records and this big DJ called Galantis at the Electronic Daisy Carnival last month. Last week, we did a big augmentation with also Atlantic Records with Lollapalooza. We're about to do the Afropunk Fest, and so there's a whole sort of slew of events coming up because folks that run events look at this and they get super excited about what they can do. Same thing with people that operate major music venues like Staples Center and such, or stadiums, or teams from the NFL and MLB and NBA, are all sort of folks that we're in discussions with on how to make their fans or inspire their fans to come to stadiums more often, buy more tickets, stay engaged with the sports. There's a lot of work that's been done by our early beta testers with retail gamification, creating experiences that have people coming back to retail locations more often than they would have. Think of them as like a loyalty program and sort of gamifying retail. If you come back every day, your sort of score goes up. And after you reach some level, then you might win something for free. Or if you go to every store at the Westfield Mall, then you might win a prize, or you level up, or you get access to some premium content, those kinds of things. The ability to create virtual kiosks, meaning today I can go to a website, and there are obviously many businesses that have e-commerce websites. And so I can go to a website on my computer or my phone and purchase something. What Metaverse allows businesses to do is to take that website sort of from being somewhere out in virtual space and put it in physical space. As I mentioned earlier, interactive experiences can have a geo position. You can say it's relevant to this area here, I want to put it here. And then when somebody comes to that position, they look at their phone, they can see that experience. And that experience can actually embed a web view, okay? And because it can embed a web view, that web view can point to the e-commerce store. And so therefore, we can basically create virtual vending machines for any website that exists and put them anywhere. And this is extremely profound when you look at sort of contextual buying. When you're somewhere, when you've just experienced this awesome thing at Disney, or you just saw Beauty and the Beast, which is something we actually did as an experiment at Downtown Disney. We put a virtual Disney Store kiosk inside of an AMC movie theater. And if you got there by following our Beauty and the Beast sort of breadcrumbs that we left, and you're inside the movie theater, you could actually see the Disney Store deep linked into Beauty and the Beast. And these are super powerful. We have lots of teachers now that are building all kinds of educational curriculum. And of course, educational curriculum is not just for teachers and students. My degree is in electrical engineering. Although I've never done a day of electrical engineering. I left Georgia Tech in 1992 and got a job as a sales guy, and I was selling phone systems. So technical sales, but I was selling. And I learned early on, and by the way, that's one of the smartest things I ever did, was all my friends got jobs as engineers, and I was sort of tired of engineering at that time, didn't want to sit at a desk, and I sort of thought, hey, I'll do this. And I learned just a tremendous amount in doing this. And of course, this is super important to being an entrepreneur as well. And one of the things I learned is that real selling, not the sort of stereotypical stuff we see on sort of used car salesmen on TV, but real selling is simply education. It is having something that you believe is valuable and you're excited about, and then going out and evangelizing it and being able to explain it to people. And sometimes those people sort of aren't that interested in it. So being able to entice them to listen to what you have to say is certainly a valuable skill. But at the end of the day, to be able to close anything, to be able to be a good salesperson, you must be able to be a good teacher. And so I'm super excited about Metaverse being used in education sort of proper, in classrooms, or to create educational curriculum that can sort of live all over the place. And we're talking to companies like McGraw-Hill and Penguin Publishing, a bunch of other folks that are sort of major players in the education space. But you should also look at this educational curriculum creation as being a way to help businesses better describe, explain, teach their value propositions, their products. Super important. Lots of people are creating games, lots of kids creating games, lots of all kinds of storytellers that are taking their interactive stories and making them, sort of gamifying them, putting them in the real world. Anyway, there are all kinds of things where it says, and many more. There are many, many more. But these were some that I thought were sort of relevant, and I pulled out for today to show you some places that people have played around. We have a document that I'll share later with anyone who's interested that details some of these experiments that have already been done. It'll give you some more color on what you may be able to go out and help people do as well. And so, as I said, a bunch of businesses have played around with this, have built their own. A bunch of them are building their own. But many, most indeed, have asked if we could help them do it. Meaning they realize after they try it, or as we describe it to them, that they can do it, but say, hey, we're sort of busy doing our other stuff. We want this, but could you guys help us? We've got a budget. We can pay you, but we sort of don't want to do it ourselves yet because we're super busy trying to run our business. Now, the thing is that we, Go Meta, the company, we need to be able to focus. And so we want to be a platform company, a technology company. We don't want to be a services company. And so therefore, we're sort of either disappointing these businesses of sort of pushing them to do all of this stuff themselves, or attempting to help them do it and then stretching ourselves too thin to do it. And so what we need is to find some independent professionals, meaning people who go out there and charge for their services and help these businesses use Metaverse to embrace augmented reality, to participate in that thing that Tim Cook is so excited about. And so, as my little arrow says, this could be you. Now, so that's what's in it for you, is you can go out and now sort of have this opportunity to be early in this very hot, obvious focus, obvious one of the next inflection points of growth in computing. And I think that's an incredible, like, I'm so excited to be able to tell you guys about this, because again, it reminds me of all these other inflection points that I took advantage of, and this one seems even bigger perhaps than some of these others. Or at least maybe now it's not bigger, but I see much more of what it can do. Back then, we sort of knew the internet would change the world, but never really comprehended how much. I knew that mobile phones and smartphones would change the world dramatically, but sort of didn't see Uber until I saw Uber, and it was like, duh. But now it seems very clear about the crazy amount of changes that we're about to experience with this. And so super interesting to find ourselves in this sort of spot where we've got this incredible platform, done a bunch of tests, and now are really in need of the same kind of evangelists that I've been before in my life. And so what's in it for us? Obviously, we get to focus on building our platform and growing it without distracting ourselves, trying to help these businesses embrace it. And so this is very valuable for us to find independent professionals that can learn to do this, can go out and service the inbound sort of needs that come to us. And so we do get quite a bit of inbound stuff, like a bunch of record labels now, brands, agencies, all kinds of folks that are sort of at our doorsteps asking for help. But even more powerful are just sort of everyone that you see around you. And no matter what town you live in, there are businesses that can take advantage of these technologies right now. Just like I showed you when I was walking around Los Angeles, knocking on doors. This is another opportunity for you to go out and evangelize and basically own whatever town it is that you live in. Okay, so the big question. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, let me pause here. Do any of you guys have any questions before we jump in and sort of play around with how to do this? Has everything I said made sense, or what's that?
They're going to send you questions. I can't, if they don't reply to this, I can't see.
Oh, I see. So please reply to Jonathan's, all panelists and other attendees. Sorry, yeah, I'm not watching. I'm watching on Jonathan's machine here. So we've got one makes sense. No questions so far. How do I get them started doing this student? So from Ross. Great question. This is the next steps, Ross, that we'll cover after this. Ross is actually one of the educator facilitators that has embraced this early and is now teaching classes. And I got a chance to see some of the things that his students have been building, and just blew my mind. It was awesome to see it. It's so rewarding to see students just sort of flow with these new technologies. Really cool. Okay, so it sounds like no questions, and so let's jump in, and we still have 15 minutes play around with building some stuff. Okay, let's build something. Okay, so as I said to you, there are basically sort of two parts to the metaverse. You can all see my screen here. Yes, great. One is the Metaverse Studio, which is the thing you use to build experiences. And second is the sort of browser, the Metaverse app that runs on iPhones and Android phones. And to create an experience, well, first you must create an account on studio.gometa.io right here. And then once you create an account and log in, you can simply go to experiences here and say create new experience. And Jonathan just posted a link there. I wouldn't do it as I'm demoing it to you here. Please sort of focus on this. You can do it after our session here. And in fact, after all of this, we'll ask you guys to go and log into Studio and create some experiences, play around, ask us any questions, and then we're actually going to be scheduling, for those of you that are interested, a more formal sort of in-depth training to get you up to speed and sort of depth much quicker, because we really need your help. Okay, so this area right here is called a storyboard. This entire screen is called a storyboard, and I'm just going to title this experience Professionals Demo. It's a drag and drop environment. You can drag these sort of objects on the screen, and as I mentioned earlier, metaverse experiences are created from two types of things. This rectangle, hold on, looks like we got a question. Do you see this platform having a need in both rural markets? Yes, I do. Absolutely, I think, no doubt about it. I mean, certainly I've even given examples of rural applications, and remind me and I'll address them after I show this, this demo. Okay, so experiences are made of scenes, which are visual elements, like this rectangle right here, and blocks, which are basically containers of functionality. Think of them as like logic blocks or code blocks, so, although you don't need any code to be able to create anything. And then you add scenes and blocks to the storyboard by clicking Add New. As you can see, there are many different types of scenes. And then there are even more different types of blocks. There are over 80 types of blocks. And by the way, we allow developers to extend the capabilities of our platform. And so new blocks today are being added almost daily. Soon, I'm certain it will be multiple times a day. And new scenes are about to be extensible by third-party developers. So you'll see these expand dramatically as well. Although with the stuff we've got today, you can already build countless different, very powerful applications. So let's play around with some. Okay. To configure these scenes and blocks, you simply click on the various areas here. So I can click here and type something. I can click here and select a character, as it's called. I can click here to add interactions. So let's go ahead and build, again, sort of as a simple example, sort of the beginnings of a loyalty program, let's say, at, why not Starbucks? I see their logo over here that somebody uploaded. By the way, you can go into this all characters area and you can search it for things. And as you can see, there are already a few things here. Somebody uploaded a Nike logo. Epsilon is a big ad agency. By the way, Matt Decent, if you guys are familiar with that, this is Diplo, his record label. We love Diplo around the Shapiro household. And so, actually, let me refresh this. Got a thing here. And so let's go ahead and grab the Starbucks logo over here. We'll put it here. And then we'll simply create this title here. Welcome to Starbucks. Please come back every day for a chance to win a prize. Something like that, something simple. And so now we can add additional scenes and blocks to extend this experience. And so to do that, I'm going to say add new. And here I'm going to add a scene called the give item scene. And the give item scene is used to give a digital item to a user that's interacting with the experience. And to pick an item, you simply click select item. By the way, on any of these both blocks, as you can see here, I can do new, so I can upload images or 3D objects. These are .obj files. And same thing here for these items. I can create new items, but here I'm just going to use this simple coin over here. And so now we're going to create a button over here and link this button to this give item scene. And so to do that, if we want the button to say something, for example, it could say, please give me a coin. And then I can go over here and say transition to scene, and then click on this little pencil or this pointer thing over here, and then click on this. Alternatively, I could have just selected it from this drop-down, scene 2. Okay, and so now when we show up here, it's going to tell us, welcome to Starbucks, please come back every day for a chance to win a prize. This one's going to say, please give me a coin. The user is going to tap this, and we're going to give them a coin. And then we're going to add an additional scene here, and we're going to create another character scene. Says, thanks. Please come back again tomorrow. Okay. And so now we can transition this scene right here, the give item scene, to this character scene by simply on the give item scene clicking on it and saying transition to scene, and then choose this scene here. And here we can simply create a button that ends the experience. Okay? And so we've basically created the beginnings now of this loyalty program. And we can test this. So let's go ahead and test that. And to do that, I'm going to test it on my phone here that I'm going to show to you. Give me 1 second here. I need to set it up to present. Any questions so far? I'm sorry, what's that? Okay, yeah, we'll get to these advanced questions in a second. Okay, here you go. Okay, so can you guys here see my screen? I'm going to move this over here somewhere. And so this is the Metaverse app right here on the right-hand side on my iPhone. And here I'm simply going to click Test on Device. And because I'm logged in with the same account on both devices, you can see it opened up my camera. There are my fingers. I'm going to move this way. And right here, we're going to see in my living room, welcome to Starbucks. Please come back every day for a chance to win a prize. And we're going to say, please give me a coin. And that's going to take this coin. Come on, coin, there it is. And put it in my inventory. And then it's going to say, thanks, please come back again tomorrow. Okay. Now, if I try to do this again right now, we're going to go through this exact same scenario, which is I came back again, not tomorrow, but I came back again right now. And so I can get another coin and it'll say the same thing. And so obviously this is not what we're trying to do. We don't want people to be able to come back over and over and over again in the same day. And so we need to add some additional functionality to this. Now the functionality we need to add, we can add by adding a block. Now there are many different categories of blocks. And so I'm not going to get into all of them at all today, but you can explore them. There are things like for probability and sending notifications and dealing with location and sort of many other things. But right now we're going to choose a block from the time controls block. And we're going to use this one right here that says set time gate. Set a time gate that expires in a certain number of seconds. And so we're going to set this time gate and we're going to put this over here. And do the calculation for me, please. How many seconds in 24 hours?
86,400.
Thanks, you. You're way ahead of me. And so I'm just going to put it right here after this. And we're going to transition this coin scene over here. Instead of to the next scene, we're going to transition it to this block. And we're going to select this block. You can see it's got an arrow to here. And then we're going to take this block and transition this block to this scene. Basically, we're going to put it in the middle here. And so now all we need to do is create just any kind of a name for this gate. You'll see in a second why. And I'm just going to call it Starbucks Day, okay? And now we have to set a direction. It says the length of time in seconds that the gate is active. And it is 86,400 seconds is 24 hours, okay? And so now we've done this. This looks like it's fine. It's a bug. Okay. Cool.
It'll work.
Okay, so that'll work. So that's one. So we've now set a time gate. Now we need to add one more thing, and that's at the beginning of the experience, we need to check the time gate active. We need to see if this time gate is still active. This will make sense in a second. And so I'm going to move it over here. Again, you can just move these things around to give yourself more room. You can move them up and down, whatever. And so over here, after this entry block, after this beginning block, I'm going to transition this beginning block to this new block that I created by simply clicking on this and then saying transition to block, and then clicking this button and going here. And then here, we need to do a couple of things. First, we need to take this name, Starbucks_day, and where this says the gate name, we put in the same gate name because we want these to be basically synchronized. Here, we're going to set this time gate for 24 hours. And here, if somebody comes back, we're going to check, is this time gate still active? Meaning has 24 hours already expired? Okay? If the time gate is still active, that means 24 hours has not yet expired. So we'll take care of this in a second. And then, but if it has expired, then everything is fine. And we will simply then transition that to this scene. Hopefully that makes sense. You set this timer for 24 hours. Then when somebody comes back to this experience, we check the timer. If the timer is still on, it hasn't expired, then we're going to do something. We're going to create actually a new scene here. Let's create a new scene for that to deal with that case. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so we've got more room to work. We're going to put that over here, actually. And so if the timer is still active, we're going to tell them I'm going to in fact put, if you put / here, you still need to wait, basically. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, you can even tell them how much longer they need to wait, although I won't do that here. And so if this gate is still active, we're going to transition to this scene here. And if the gate is no longer active, meaning the timer is expired, then we let them go through this process again. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Let's go ahead and finish this one up by simply creating a button to end this experience. And let's go ahead and test and make sure we've got the right Starbucks day. Starbucks day. Okay, we should be good to go. And so I'm going to say test on device. And there it, oh, sorry. Thank you. So I tap test on device and I got this. And now we're going to say, please give me a coin. And it's going to give us a coin. It's going to set that time gate and it's going to tell us, thanks, please come back again tomorrow. And so we're done with that experience. Okay. Now let's go ahead and try that again right now. Obviously not 24 hours has passed. And we get this. You still need to wait. Okay? And then this will end the experience. Now, once the 24 hours passes, we can try again. By the way, we can, for development purposes here, create another button that says reset date. And we can add a new block, again, from time controls. And this one's called clear time gate. And there it is. And we can just put that over here. And we can link this button to this block, transition to block, this block here. And then we can give this block the same name. Where is our gate? Oh, looks like this block needs to be fixed. It's broken. Oh, no, there it is. Gate name, weird. Okay. And so we put it the same name, obviously. You have to use the exact same name, Starbucks_day. And then what happens after we reset this time gate, we can transition to scene. And of course, we can just go to this scene here. And so now if we test it, then it's still not 24 hours has passed. So that time gate is still active. So we should get the screen that we still need to wait. But because we've now created this reset gate button, I'm going to tap that. We're going to reset the gate, and it's going to take us through this process again. Okay. And then, by the way, at any time you can tap on that, it's called caret, the drop down at the top right, and then that gives you some additional options like ending the experience sort of midstream. Okay, so it is noon, and I'm going to stop here because I could go on and on and on and take some questions. And instead of, oh, one more thing I want to show you before we do that. If we wanted to take this experience and put it somewhere physically, again, at any moment we can take it and take the share link over here and send it to anyone. Send it to you guys, and you can tap on it, and you can now play around with it. And by the way, if any of you have the Metaverse Client, I could do that now, and you could have it instantly and play around with it. Also, you can, if you have it on your phone right here on the right-hand side, these are just experiences that are available to me. I can long press on one. You can see you can send it to a user, copy share link. You can send, save it to your iPhone home screen. And so this Be Happy, this cat, is a Metaverse experience, as are all of these right here. All of these on the two bottom rows. Darebird, for example, is also an experience. And if I tap that, it just looks like an app. But if I tap it, it'll open up the Metaverse app, then download basically the code needed to render this experience, kind of like a website. By the way, it's because we're both streaming here that this thing is a little bit slow here, but typically happens in less than 2 seconds. And then now you get this game, which, by the way, this game was built by a 12-year-old, and it's sort of like Russian roulette. You just keep touching this bird, and each time it sort of does probability. There's Jonathan's foot. And sometimes you explode. But anyway, so that's how experiences can also be sort of interacted with these clients. And by the way, if you put this into map view, these experiences can be found on a map. And the way you set the map coordinate is inside the experience right here. If you click on this entry block, as we call it, right here, you can choose a position. For now, you can choose a fixed position or position to an iBeacon. You can remember that word. You don't really need to understand it at this moment. You can Google it. Some businesses, mostly big ones, like very, very big ones, may ask you if this supports iBeacons, and you can say yes, but mostly you'll be doing fixed position. And here you just click set position, and you can put in any address in the world. Like you can either put the address here, or you can put lat long coordinates here. So we could take this experience and put it at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. And let's say there's a Starbucks inside the White House. This thing can go to the White House. And we can actually be quite precise on how we position it at the White House. We can put it in the West Wing. We can put it in specific positions here. Yeah, this is, again, unfortunately, because my streaming had a little bit of a bug, but it works. Try it. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and take questions. Yep, on Dee's home screen, it looked like he had unique icons for each experience. Can you explain how that works? Yes, on my phone screen, I suspect you meant there are these unique icons. These icons come from the first character scene that you put on the storyboard. So in this case, the icon would be the Starbucks coffee. And by the way, if you want to change that, we don't allow you to do it sort of explicitly, but we have a hack for it. And that hack is that when you create a new experience, you can simply create a character scene, have it sort of be off to the side, unlinked, choose a character for it like the shield, and sort of leave it unlinked, make that the first scene, and then link to these other scenes from there. And so that will let you make that the icon as well.
How do you add experiences to your homepage?
Oh, how do you add experiences to the homepage? Yeah, that's pretty easy to do. And so let's add Clay over here to my homepage screen. So I simply tap Save to iPhone's home screen. Again, this is a little bit of a hack, but it works. It's pretty easy. It says tap the share icon and then tap Add to home screen to save this experience. I'm going to tap the share icon at the bottom there, this one here. And then at the bottom here, it says Add to home screen. And I tap that. And then it says, do you still want to call it this? I'm going to say yes. And I just say Add. And it basically just puts it right there on my home screen. In fact, I'm going to tap on this one because it's a pretty cool one also. And so it will launch this in a second. Sorry about the delay. Like I said, these things are typically faster, but I think our bandwidth here is just quite congested. Okay, there's Clay. By the way, Clay here, Clay Bavor runs Google's AR and VR efforts. And he says, tap the button below and then put your phone into Cardboard. I'm going to tap that. And it's going to tell me to place my phone in Cardboard Viewer. I'm going to do that and rotate my phone. And now, as you can see, now my screen here won't rotate. But you can see it's a split screen like you'd see in a VR viewer, like a Cardboard. And now I'm moving my phone to the right, to the left, down, up, all around. And so this is 360-degree video in VR view. Now I'm going to tap that arrow. I'm going to put it into regular view. So just regular 360-degree video. And now I'm going to tap next. And Clay is going to tell us that it's easy to make these with Metaverse Studio. And so to create this experience, as long as you've got a link to a 360-degree video, you can do this in under 2 minutes. Okay. Will Metaverse offer walkthrough stickers for small companies to be able to advertise how to get their experience? Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by walkthrough stickers. You mean stickers that they can put on their door? Yes. We will. Soon you'll also be able to scan a QR code to launch an experience, and so you'll be able to do that. And so yes, businesses will be able to print these little things out and then put them on their door. Anybody who walks in can simply, scan it or type in an ID and be able to get it. But of course, you don't actually even need to do that, because all you have to do when you're there is open up your map, and you will be standing right on top of the experience. And so you'll be able to see it in your map view. And even if you're not at the business, again, if you've got your map view open, you'll see, oh, just down the street is this experience, is a Starbucks, and I can go there and interact with it. Yeah, so if customers don't have Metaverse, certainly getting them to install it for, again, additional value, because you can say, hey, install this app, and now it's kind of like Subway lets you, every time you go in there and buy a sandwich, they stamp your little card. Well, you don't need these cards anymore. You can simply do these things electronically. How does Metaverse trigger if a user walks within range of your experience to alert them to it? Great question. So you can send notifications to people when they get close to an experience. I don't want to show that to you now. It's a little bit, at this moment, of an advanced topic, but it's actually quite straightforward to do once you learn how to do it. And obviously, if they've got their app open, in general, the app will buzz when you get next to an experience. There'll be a buzz. Is it possible for a brand to have a custom icon for first-time users? Again, I'm not exactly sure what you mean for custom icon. So you can create, you mean a custom icon on the experience or a custom icon on the app? Not sure.
I think what you could do with this is have, so if it's the first time a user has completed an experience that is in your dimension, they could have a message based on user properties that's sent. So it'll say, we did this at Lollapalooza. It said, welcome to the Lollapalooza scavenger hunt, sort of explain the game, and that was sort of a welcome message that was sent to users.
Sorry, I'm a little slow today, guys, sorry. So maybe like a first-time screen, kind of like when you install an app, you get kind of a little tour screens that explain to you how to use the app and that. So is that what you mean?
You could do it on an experience too.
I see, that's right. Okay, yep, definitely. Are there other questions?
There are some questions here.
Oh, some questions on Q&A. Okay, Q&A, fine. You use Metaverse with Square, and a lot of cafe use it, and would stream run the process. There's an integration with them pre-built. So yes, although we have not built the block to do that yet, but it's very straightforward to be able to do. As I mentioned to you, the Metaverse platform is extremely extensible. And so we actually have a long list of blocks that we're going to build ourselves. And then any developer that knows JavaScript can extend the capabilities. And so they'll be able to do that as well. Square is certainly on the list and could be built quite quickly to integrate. And not just Square. Will the app notify even if you've never participated in an experience, thus widening the individual social network within the metaverse? The app will notify you if you have it open and you're walking around and you get near an experience. That's when we trigger it today. We're somewhat sensitive about sort of pushing too many notifications towards people just yet. And so for now, that's the only thing that will trigger. Or if an experienced user again intentionally creates an experience that triggers, let's say you were somewhere nearby this coffee shop and you interacted with one of their experiences, now they could trigger a push notification to you saying, hey, come by, go west 100 yards, and now you can come to our other store or do something like that. So you can do it in that way. Yeah. Stop. Oh, hey guys.
So you can see the questions right there.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so so each one of my students are interested in what you proposed. Okay, awesome. The next steps, by the way, are go to studio.gometa.io, create an account. It's free. Watch some tutorials that are on the Getting Started page there. Play around with creating some experiences. Send us the links, so you can cut and paste the links from the experience and just send them to us. You can send them to, in fact, you can even post them if you want to the Facebook event page. We will soon post some links to our longer lasting groups, like our Pioneers group, where folks are interacting with each other. And so you'll be able to sort of communicate amongst each other and with us more rapidly and frequently. And then we will be scheduling soon a sort of a more in-depth training. It'll probably be a couple hours long. We won't go through that whole presentation anymore, sort of hopefully inspiring you guys at the opportunity of learning to do this and how valuable it could be. We'll focus strictly on building things. We'll play around with building some things that we think are cool and show you and that we've already built for businesses. And then we'll also take basically questions from participants, and maybe we can just build some of the things that you guys want to get help on building. So we'll hold a number of those sessions because, again, to us, this is super valuable to get you guys up to speed quickly and in depth. So we can offload our work to you, and so you can go out and sort of beat the bushes and get more work as well and evangelize the metaverse. They've been training.
So we have a list of
Yes.
businesses that want content and stuff, right? We have businesses that are looking for content.
We do, yeah. So yeah, we've got businesses that need help now. We can't sort of introduce you guys just yet because you're all still amateurs, even the ones that have been playing with it a little bit. We need to get you up to speed so you do feel like professionals. But we think this is, once you start playing with this and learn some stuff on your own, and then maybe spend 2 to 4 hours with us in these training seminars, you should certainly be at a level where you can go out and do meaningful work and really help businesses do stuff. Are there any built-in functions for a user to meet other users in their area? Not yet, but there will be. Yeah, this time users can't see each other, and so they sort of don't exist. There are some ways, like you can create leaderboards. We've created a bunch of those, and they actually show names of people that are interacting with the same experience or in the same set of experiences. You can now also get users to take selfies and then upload those selfies to the cloud and then allow those users to see photos of each other of who's interacting, and certainly they'd be able to meet in that way. But for now, there aren't really social features in this, other than share your experience to social networking sites, of course. Cool. Any other questions? Do just sort of a show of hands via chat. Do all of you feel like this is something that you could learn to do, and like that you wouldn't hate doing and might be interested in doing and things of that sort? Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, if there are other questions, I'll take a couple of more. If not, let's cut this webinar and then go play with Metaverse, and then again join our groups. Watching the event page on Facebook. We're going to post some links in a second, and then also watch that for join the Metaverse Pioneers group, and then watch that for announcement of when we're going to be doing these more in-depth trainings. Certainly there'll be at least one this coming week. Awesome. All right, folks. Thanks so much for taking time out of your Saturday to do this. It's we're really excited about it. See you guys. Get some rest.